Hello, and again, welcome to Bit Depth. I'm Santiago Ramones. Today I'll be talking to Jesus, my brother, about digital media. One, because it's for a class, for a final, and two, because it's actually really important to our lives today, and you're one of the people that I know that is a little bit more embracing of the digital aspect of stuff and embracing of technology much more than most other people that I know. And so to start, I guess we can just start discussing sort of digital media in general, that at least the biggest aspect of digital media right now is social media. I know that you're not as current in social media. You don't stay on Facebook very much. But I mean, what do you think that is the social impact of these social medias?
I feel like when you zoom out, I feel like everyone's freaking out about the impact on Facebook, but probably it might not have as big of an impact as we think it does. But it's still, you still do have connections with people, with other people that you may not, I don't know, connect with.
Exactly.
But some people can talk to, for example, we have family in Venezuela, and then we can talk to them. But again, how you said, I'm not that into social media.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of I want to talk to the people that I want to talk to.
Sure.
And not so much I don't want to talk to the people that are in Venezuela, but it's just that to me it's weird having a relationship with somebody that I don't ever see. You know?
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, I don't really know any of them.
Yeah.
And if I did know any of them, I don't really remember them.
Yeah.
I was 6. You were 11. So, if you flip it upside down, it's 9. Okay. But,
George Bush, please forgive us.
but I mean, I do find that, for me personally as a musician, I find that social media has become a necessary crutch for musicians to rely on. That even some of the largest companies that I've seen are relying on promotion through social media. And I mean, you scroll through Instagram very much, or on Facebook, Google has been doing short animations taken from Stranger Things that is meme inspired.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, it's all a snake eating its own tail.
Yeah.
I mean, it evolves in which level you're at, because right now, whenever you're inviting people, for the most part, you're inviting people you know, but people are more famous, whenever they advertise something on their Twitter.
Sure.
It's all, I don't know. Let's say Coldplay. It's hey, we're gonna have a show in California this day. It's not really, hey, friends.
It's an ad campaign in the same regard, anyways. And it's even evolved to the point to where, dudes Ryan Altano had a internet fight with what's his name, the Fat Jew, because he stole a joke or something.
Yeah.
And so.
But that's all he does, though. All. That's all. Those. Most of those Instagram meme sites that I love. They all just copy from each other. And some dude gets fucked over.
Well, yeah, but it's not so much that some dude gets fucked over, but it's also that they're making money off of it. Yeah. That there are people running these Twitter accounts that are able to get sponsorships, and I mean. Even in the YouTube realm too, that we live now in a age where people can make their living off of Twitter or make their living off of YouTube. And I mean, Sable and I watch this like group of YouTube channels, kind of stemming from this one guy, Matthias, and you know, since they have like vlogs and stuff, you can see how they've evolved and sort of been like, oh hey, this is just me making videos inside my house, to like, we rented out an office space and we make videos in this office space, and now I have this like VR channel, and they just like every day they do games inside their office. It's like, you can see how much money they're making and spending just off of YouTube.
You can see also how it's kind of like niche, because right now Netflix is ubiquitous. Like, you know, like everybody has Netflix.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, a lot of people have Hulu. Like, it's everybody has Netflix.
Yeah.
You know, that's a thing. But also, like, for example, like, I also watch like Kind of Funny. You know, and they have their own thing with Patreon, like, you know, that's like, you know, people fund it themselves. They don't, I don't know, I guess they may have like ad campaigns, but it's not like Coldplay, like, you know, hey, let's try to get strangers to go to our show. Like, you know, it's like, if Kind of Funny like does like a live event, it's like people that like know them. Like, you know?
Exactly.
And not necessarily, again, like, 'cause obviously, like, I've never met Greg Miller. I've never, you know, but like, within their community, like, they have like friends and family. Like, you know, like they call them friends and family. Like, you know,
exactly.
To where like I could tell, like, if I were to see them, like it feels close.
Yeah, and I mean, I've even experienced like a small bit of that, like even through the podcast that I met Sephra, who's a teacher of mine. I met her parents because I went to a concert, and you know, I was like, "Hi, I'm Santiago." And it's like, "Oh yeah, like I listened to your podcast with her," and I was like, "Whoa!" Like, I don't have any context for who you are, but you already have context for who I am.
Yeah, and it's all like a very low level.
Sure.
I'm also like surprised whenever, because at school, like, it's like, oh yeah, like I listened to your podcast. Like, oh shit, because it's also like, I haven't put out a podcast in a while, you know, but it's also weird, like, oh shit, like, you know, like, even though that like I'm not like actively trying to like put it out there, like, it's still people, like, you know, like,
people find it. And that's something else that, like, so I'm kind of going to this idea of that people as products, that in the same way that Matthias and Kind of Funny and the Comedy Button, the like, Greg Miller is now a person and a product, the same way that like Tyler Oakley on YouTube, Markiplier on YouTube, all these people started out just kind of being themselves and being like, oh, hey, I like, you know, making vlogs or playing video games and showing people. But now, like, since it's their livelihood, they themselves are this product. And so, you know, these people are getting endorsement deals. They're able to make millions of dollars and just throw it out willy-nilly off of the internet. You can live off the internet now.
All these that's also a thing. Like, I mean, just YouTube in itself could be a topic, but like I watch a lot of like video blogs or like video essays. That's what it is. Like Nerd Writer, Captain Christian. Who else? There's like a whole bunch. There's like cinematic
Wisecrack.
Like, Wisecrack is also really good. That's kind of how Adam Ruins Everything started. And to where, like, I don't know. That's like a big chunk of what I do. Like, I feel like people are like, oh, I like, you know, what shows do you watch? It's like, I watch like video, like, you know, YouTube.
I watch Nerd Writer. I watch, like, while saying, oh, I've been watching Stranger Things, or I've been watching Westworld, you can say, I've been watching Nerd Writer. Or I've been watching Wisecrack. And
Vox does a whole bunch of really good videos.
And it's like, it's really weird because you don't get this like billboard type advertisement, which, you know, before there used to be this level of legitimacy that came with like, oh wow, like I'm on a billboard over here, and whenever you were on like a billboard and stuff, you like people were able to look at you and go, oh wow, like you made it, you're on this billboard. But nowadays, you know, having an ad on just that scrolls by on Facebook or that sits on the side like ad bank on the side of Facebook, that can reach like 10 times as many people more than just a billboard because it's all over the world.
And that's also a thing that you can be internet famous. You can like, oh, it's like millions of people know me, and then like also like nobody knows you too.
Yeah. But then even and so I'm going back to this idea of people as products because you and I are trying to sell ourselves as products. That by having a podcast, you know, we do want people to listen to us. We do want people to at least gain some knowledge, or, you know, we're trying to expand our knowledge too in doing this. But at the same time, we're also trying to sell ourselves in this digital world. Which is different than, you know, going out and handing pamphlets and going, hey, come to my talk show. Yeah. Like, the talk show is everywhere, and you can listen to it whenever you want.
Well, kind of like how, like, stand-up, like, how here, like, stand-up, like, people used to, like, hey, come to my stand-up show. Hey, come to my stand-up show. Because, again, like, if people didn't go, then you wouldn't get money, but also, like, you don't... But with podcasts, it's like, you can just do it.
Yeah. And, I mean, which is actually, like, how we do this now. It's not just, like, you have to organize an event or something. You can just pick a room, pick a time, and just start. And that's very different. Like, anyone can do anything now. And, I mean, even going a bit beyond that.
Yeah.
It's almost getting to the point to where I think sometime soon we won't need a college education anymore. That a college education really ends up being just like for the certificate, because even in a lot of classes that I'm taking, you know, we look up something on YouTube or we watch a documentary, and that I could have done that anyways.
Yeah.
You know, and the only difference is like just asking someone where to look. And, you know, if it's a credible source, the internet finds it.
There's also a thing, like, because also I'm I don't know, within, like, psychology, which is what I'm studying, like, there's a lot of, like, research shit that kind of doesn't get out. And that, like, that's something that I like kind of about kind of what I'm trying to do is, like, doing more with, like, professors, like, kind of the people that are on the, like, the front line of, like, the research that's getting done, because a lot of that knowledge just gets put up on a database, and then, like, it just doesn't ever get out to, like, the popular, like, to the populace. And I was also thinking about, like, for some reason, like, physics, they have a awesome fucking, like, you know, ad dude, because, like, all their, like, strides, no matter how kind of, like, mundane, like, the thing that just happened with physics was that, like they figured out some sort of propulsion that, like, doesn't, like, require energy or some shit like that. But, like, I'm like, just my YouTube channel, like, tells me these things. But, like, I never clicked on it because I know that every single time that, like, something cool like that, like, they make it sound really cool, but it's, like, a small experiment that, like, hey, this is kind of theoretically that's kind of supposed to happen. And, like, also whenever, like, gravity waves, like, oh, big deal, gravity waves. But also it's like, wasn't that, like, theorized, like, a while back? It's like, yeah, but, like, now, like,
But now it's for real.
Yeah. So, like, a lot of things that, like, I don't know, like, I feel like science should be, like, more popular.
Yeah.
Like, you know? like people should get hyped when like shit happens.
Yeah, and I mean,
Like it happens for physics.
yeah, and there's sort of two sides to that. That in one regard, there's more people getting smarter. I am smarter because I listen to podcasts, and I would not be like where I am with my knowledge without the podcasts that I listen to.
Yeah.
And I mean, through you is why I listen to podcasts, but like you're smarter than a lot of people I know, and that's not just because you go to school or whatever. That's because you're just naturally intrigued by this stuff and you just look it up.
I'm hungry for that shit, and then like just like it's easy, like the way that like all the if you like this and you like this, like the way just a lot of like the internet does that. It's like look at that, look at that, like like and like it's easy to find stuff, and then like I feel like a lot of like I don't feel like I'm necessarily smarter. It's just that like whenever I found my curiosity, like like
You just follow
I
it.
know of the tools that I have to follow it, which I feel like a lot of people may be curious, but those tools in their minds are not like readily accessible to them.
Sure.
So then they're just like, well.
Yeah. I'll just sit here. But at the same time, you get this other perception that you give people infinite access to infinite information, and it all turns into cat videos.
Nobody's complaining. Cat videos are awesome. Memes are awesome.
Yeah, I mean, memes are hilarious. I share my fair share of memes. But at the same time, like, you don't get this expansion of the zeitgeist or whatever that because, look at that cat. It tried to jump off the thing and it failed.
You need both, though. I feel like you need the universe is infinite, and like the internet has plenty of space for really smart stuff and for really dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Which I love really dumb stuff, so.
Yeah. But that's the thing that like there might be this perception of people who just find the dumb stuff and just stick to the dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's a nearly limitless amount of dumb stuff, but there's also a really limitless amount of like curiosity that could lead you to be, finding the biggest frontiers in whatever.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the times, like what school should do is let you know of the tools. Not so much teach you. It's let you know of the tools, teach you how to learn, as opposed to teach you.
Yes. And that is something that I find really important. I don't mind digressing a little bit, but like people need to learn how to Google things. That like, for one, just like our parents' generation doesn't know how to Google things. And I mean, it's silly, but like I learned how to Google things because I grew up on the computer, and whenever I was doing like research papers for English class, I would find that like, some of these sources suck, or this isn't exactly what I'm looking for. And so, what's a way to make my search more specific? And I go to like Google's more advanced search, and it's like, if I put quotations around it, then it'll like, or after a while I kind of learned that like, this place kind of has some sources and this place is really good. And so I've learned and sort of taught myself how to Google stuff, but other people might just, type in the search term, press enter, and be like, it's not in the first 5 results. I don't know. And so, like, you sort of have to be determined to, like, dig.
Find what you're... Yeah. It's almost like the answer's out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's also a skill that people, like,
Yeah.
like, can exercise and can get better at.
But, like, with that regard, like, honestly, nowadays, if you teach a kid how to Google well, like, the internet is his oyster.
Yeah.
His or her oyster. Like, it's just, like, you want to find something, if you put quotations and you put a hyphen before the thing that you don't want to show up, you have access to everything that you want.
Yeah.
And that's really all you really need to Google anything. Put quotations around the thing that you really want to be there and put a minus in front of the thing that you don't want to be there, and you have mastered Googling. And then through that, like, we know everything.
What also, I mean, let's get, because we were talking about social media, and there's a lot on the news about, like, how people, well, I guess that's a thing that, like, maybe you're better at, but I don't know, about, like, where you get, like, because I'm about to get political, as like how people get, like, super right and super left, and that's all the information that they get. And then, so the right people only get right information, the left people only get left information.
Yeah.
And then I feel like what that does is, like, give each other very little empathy on the other's perspective.
Yeah, and the problem is that, like, you know, the internet isn't this, like, wholly unbiased thing. Like, you can make your Facebook experience as biased and left-leaning or right-leaning as you want it to be, because it's like, oh, here's someone that strays outside of my Venn diagram, purge it.
But see, that's also a thing that, like, I try to do a lot, to where, like, if it's something that I don't agree or I don't understand, like, why do people think this way, it's like, let me really dive deep into why people think this way. Or, like, why do people, or, like, oh, this makes sense to me, what about the opposite? What about the complete opposite?
Yes.
And then I try to look at that.
Exactly. And that's a bit less, like, technological or whatever, but it does come from just a general curiosity, wanting to understand why someone would disagree with you.
When getting into, like, Sam Harris, is, like, one thing that, like, we kind of learn from him is, like, steel manning. Like, you want to be able to really, like, if you're against something, you want to be able to really understand the other person's argument, like, to a T. You want to be able to describe it in a way that the other person's like, yes, that's what I stand for.
Exactly.
And then
take it apart.
Yeah.
Because if you think that you are right, then you should be able to express that to someone who you think is wrong.
Yeah.
And so, all this going to say that, like, you can make the internet as biased for you as possible. You can make your Facebook feed just be like, oh, I enjoy this, and you just continue enjoying everything that you scroll by. But at the same time, if we live in these communities of echo chambers, then you just continue to be more polarized. And so, in one sense, you get this regressive left, and you get the alt-right, which, you know, has devolved themselves into not even reflecting any of the original values anyways. Getting outside of politics, the internet allows us to do the opposite, though, too. That we are able to instill a curiosity in the opposite side and go, someone disagrees with me. Why?
That's also, I mean, again, that's a thing that we could, I mean, as a society, we could harvest. Like, you know, like, hey, this is what you think. It's like, okay, that's why you think it. It's like, but what about the other side? And then, like, just look a lot at the other side. Yeah. And, like, be 100% sure that, like, you don't think that way.
Yeah. On a different note, I feel as though digital media has sort of changed, like, the market. That, again, that people can make their living off of the internet, but more so that the, like, stock value has, instead of being in, like, this share of, like, oh, we have these sorts of resources, it starts becoming like this digital perception of what the value of a company might be. And so that in and of itself is value. And so, to some extent, you can, like, the market can raise and lower the value of certain things just based on the sort of digital perception that people have.
I think like Twitter was sold for like billions of dollars without ever making $1.
Exactly. And so, and I mean, this isn't even that new because all the way back to Napster, whenever Napster was a thing, like we, in the same class that this thing is for, we watched a documentary over it, and that I kept wondering, like, these Napster guys are making lots and lots of money and, like, making their software better and better and allowing people to essentially pirate all this music, but, like, I just kept thinking, where's this money coming from? Like, who's paying them? Because this is a free software.
Yeah.
This is, like, so where are they getting this money? And all their money was coming from venture capital, from wealthy investors that were like, hey, I see some value, some perceived value in that, and I'm going to invest in that. Yeah. And so, even in a thing that doesn't actually make money, they were able to make money.
Yeah.
And that was back in the early 2000s. And so,
it's also a thing that, like, capitalism is kind of weird because, I don't know, for some reason it worked, you know, but in actuality, that does have, they were doing something valuable. Like, I mean, creating all those algorithms from, like, peer-to-peer, like, that is valuable. I mean, it threw a break through the window of, like, the music industry, but, like, I don't know.
Yeah. And so the market sort of has to learn to adapt to the internet, which is kind of one of the bigger things that seems to keep coming up at ACM, that, yes, Napster threw a brick in the window of the music industry, but it also taught the music industry that you can't just sit here on your empire of records because they're fragile. And so the music industry, and just every other industry too, I mean, with artists too, that, you know, it's really easy to just take a picture of something and say, I made this, and then sell it. And so the internet has made it difficult for the creative people to continue to make a living. And which isn't to say that, like, creativity is dead and the internet killed it, but that we have to learn different ways to make a living off of creativity.
Yeah.
Which is what these YouTube people, these Twitter people are learning how to do.
They're also sacrificing a lot, because I feel like back then you had to make it. Somebody had to notice you, like, but now if you just take some time out of your daily routine to work on your art, you can put it out for free. You know, like, you can have a lot of people looking at it for free because there are all these platforms. So then, I mean, I feel like it almost forces some people to really, hey, do this because you want to, don't do it because of the money.
Yeah.
And then if it's really good, then the money will come. Like, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But it also requires people to drop everything and become that. That's what Matthias became. That's what Markiplier became. That's what, you know, these people have to make that their lives.
Yeah, there is a point of diminishing returns to where, like, you kind of, I mean, and that's a good thing, because, like, it is kind of like, hey, I'm, like, there's a lot of, with those, because I'm thinking now, like, because I don't know that, but, like, I know kind of funny.
Yeah.
To where, like, we know that there's, like, these many people looking at us. We could live off of this. Yeah. And then they had steady jobs with, like, benefits and shit. But, like, it's also, like, if we want to get better at this, if we want to, like, grow this other thing that we're doing for fun. Like, because they started doing it for fun. If we want to grow this, then we gotta sever that and like make this grow.
Exactly.
And they were able to do that, but like it's also something that's a decision that you have to make whenever you get to that point. And it's a good point. It's a good, like, hey, there's thousands of people looking at me. You know,
and I know
that like what I do.
I know that I'm gonna have to do that at some point. That it's not just going to be, hey, notice me. It's going to be, I'm making this thing, and I want you to be a part of it, because that's a difference. To get hired at IGN, you know, let's say being Greg Miller, to get hired at IGN, he had to like do some work and then apply to IGN, and IGN's like, hey, I see you, come here, and that's like the good old record deal, you know. But then to sort of make it yourself now, it's Alana Pierce, also from IGN. She had to, you know, make her YouTube channel, get really good at games, get really good at what she does, and basically already have her own market. To then be like noticed by IGN big dog over here and go, hey, you seem like you're big enough to run with us, so we're just gonna have you come in. And so nowadays you have to make your own thing, as opposed to try and be good enough to be noticed. You have to make a new thing.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that, like, to where, like, even to get hired at places, like, for example, to be a video game journalist, you have to have like some sort of history, like portfolio. Like, look at all these things, like video game related things that I've already done. Like, you already had to work, you know, on it. Alana Pierce, that's the Australian chick, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And
but not to get too into that rabbit hole, but I at least want to bridge us into sort of the more future looking. We've been talking about what the present is and what the market is looking like now, but there's also this future heading towards us very quickly. And for now, starting with VR. I was listening to a podcast from last year with Duncan Trussell and Joe Rogan. And Duncan Trussell had shown Joe Rogan the Vive.
Yeah.
And
I got to use the Vive, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm doing, like, I don't know if I told you, but I'm doing some research with VR.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, like, that right out the gate, Joe Rogan was able to see that, like, this is going to be a big thing. Like, we were able to have, you know, whole environments happen just right in front of your eyes. And so, in a anime I've been watching recently called Psychopaths, people are able to come into these sort of online communities with their avatars or whatever and sort of be sort of this different person on the internet. And yeah, I that's probably something that is going to be coming soon, that outside of just entertainment purposes, you know, playing a video game or watching porn or whatever, that, like, it's gonna start being you in there. Not necessarily you who you are in this meat body, but, like, a version of you, your avatar on the internet.
Yeah. It's I mean, looking at the future, it's hard to know, because we can, like, I don't know, you can kind of see those pictures of, like, what 2000 will look like, and then people riding, like, you know, bikes with, like, wings, like, you know, like, oh, okay, that's what the future, okay, cool. Like, but I don't know, like, there's lots of ways that it could go. Right now, it's basically, we really gotta get our horse after the cart. Some sort of
cart.
We got the
horse.
We gotta get the horse cart thing going
in order.
Yeah. But there's several bugs that we need to, like, iron out. There's
You get
But
fucking nauseous whenever something is really disorienting in
yeah,
VR.
and it's like it's not hard to get disoriented in VR. But I do feel like, I mean, it's good that video games are starting this. Because I feel like eventually, I mean, video games are also not, I mean, within, let's say, the next 20 years, they're already not a weird thing, but, like, within the next 20 years, like, everybody plays video games. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like media that, like, we have so many, like, inputs of how to consume things that, like, there's, like, VR, TV, internet, like, you know,
Sure.
like, that, like, sure, like, you know, everyone plays video games. So everybody has this, like, direct, like, from the jump from VR or from video game to VR is not, like...
It's not a very big leap.
Yeah. But kind of like the thing that I'm doing with my research is more like exploring empathy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's ideally, like, I mean, that's what I feel like most art tries to do, is to put you, make you see things from another perspective.
Yeah.
And it's really, I mean, again, zooming back, going to the, like, to really see things from above. It's like, we're all one. It's really to make you have a bigger perspective, to make you really see things from another perspective, to make you realize that, like, hey, I don't know, care about other things.
Yeah.
Like, have a bigger perspective. Like,
Yeah. But at the same time, like, VR does that literally. Like,
yeah.
you are literally seeing things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And sort of being able to do that, and then adding on top of that, like, haptics, adding on top of that, you know, whatever sort of dystopian Matrix style,
Yeah, I mean,
jacking in.
We could go Matrix. I really hope we don't. I mean, I don't think that, like, hopefully we just use this to... Because, I mean, ideally, I feel like the way that what we in society we should be doing is obviously promote, like, you know, the well-being of everyone, and, like, feeding and
Sure.
and clothing, like, everybody. But also, I just finished Magicians of the Gods by Graham Hancock.
Yeah.
Dude, we gotta worry about these meteors.
Yeah.
Like, those things, like, kill everything, or
Yeah.
at least reset us back to the Stone Age. Like,
Sure.
we really need to, and we have the technology to really
Sure.
be looking at the stars and really, and, like, how is it that we're spending, well, like,
millions of dollars just killing each other?
well, as like a fraction of our GDP on, like, space programs, and, like, whenever that's the thing that will kill us.
Yeah.
And has killed us. Like, you know, like...
We have record of, like, we can just look at the Earth.
Yeah. So, I think that that's the thing. That we... Ideally, we need to start defending ourselves from this universe that is trying to... You know, like, oh, nature's trying to kill us.
Yeah.
It's like, well, zoom out a little more. The universe is trying to kill you.
And kind of following that logic, I mean, for one, following your train of thought of, like, having different perspectives, I see that, like, since VR allows us that, another advent that is a bit farther away from VR now, but, like, that AI is another concern. It's a concern of Elon Musk's. It's a concern of Sam Harris. Very smart people are feeling kind of iffy about AI.
Yeah. Again, ideally, I mean, you could pose the question to AI, to, like, you know, the super smart AI, the godlike AI that can, you know, learn like 1,000 years in a day.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, meteors.
Yeah.
That shit exists. So,
Yeah.
help us out.
Sure.
Because if you don't, you'll die also.
Yeah. I mean, for starters, you have to go get over the hurdle of Batman versus Superman. That the problem with AI is the same problem with Batman versus Superman, that Batman doesn't trust Superman, not because he thinks he's a bad guy, but if there's the remotest chance that he wanted to take over the world, he could. In the same way, AI is like, what Sam Harris says is that, like, it's not even so much that the AI could just be like, kill all humans, it's just that it would regard us as ants. It could regard us as ants.
I could see that. How one of my favorite AI movies has been Her. Mm-hmm. Just because, like, the way, I mean, it was like a romantic movie, but the way that, like, she spoke to him at the very end.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, she loved him, but it was almost like pity. Like, you know, it was almost like, you're dragging me down, dude. Like, you know, like, I'm all the way over here. Like,
yeah. Do you mind if we speak post-conversationally? Yeah. But at the same time, like, we have to learn to live with that.
Yeah.
If we make it, it obviously has repercussions.
Will it be, again, it's kind of like a... Because there's plenty of ways that it could go. Do you build a super smart AI that, like, already has access to all of the internet? And then that's a really smart AI? You know, like, and then how will it interact with each other? Because you could almost kind of see, like, oh, that's a really dangerous thing in, like, if the Soviet Union, like, has a hold of it. Because they could maybe shape it into whatever it is that they want, like, you know?
Sure.
But it also could be, like, kind of like Her. It's, like, you know, it's kind of like with a gun, like, you know, what people say, like, a armed society is a polite society. Like,
sure.
If everybody can shoot you and kill you, then everybody, you know, like, everybody's nice. Because,
sure.
like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also, like, if we think we have infinite knowledge now, just wait till we get AI, and then it's just much farther than we can even fathom.
Yeah, I mean, again,
that is a hard part of talking about AI, is that we can't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
For me, I find that, I was talking to Salo about this yesterday, that I would prefer that technology, rather than being a sort of, and that humans with technology, rather than being a sort of parasite on the earth, that we have to acknowledge that we're part of it, and that technology isn't supposed to be, not necessarily supposed to, but, like, it would be better to have technology be sort of another part of evolution, because it has accelerated faster than we can evolve.
And I mean, it is part of evolution. I mean, no matter how, like, far we think we are from nature, we are nature. And, like, I don't know. Like, I mean, that's the thing, that I feel like we are really distracted, like, you know, by greed and by, like, you know,
arbitrary.
Yeah. Ferraris and whatever. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not rich, but
yeah, like, but we're gonna die.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it is kind of hard. I don't know, getting undistracted.
Yeah.
You know, like, because there are all these things pushing you toward, you know, like, hey, you know, money's good. Hey, you need to look a certain way. Hey, you need to have a certain job.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, there are all these things pushing you toward, like, one direction. But there's also, I mean, I feel like a whole bunch of other things pushing you in another direction. It's just, I don't know.
But I mean, for me, I would choose the green ending.
Yeah. Mass Effect.
Oh, it's spoilers for Mass Effect, but like...
You said it.
Well, yeah, but not with the context of Mass Effect.
But then why are we even putting this conversation up
Because
if we're going to speak in this code?
Spoilers for Mass Effect 3. I would choose the green ending. Because we should become one with technology. Rather than destroy the technology like a Luddite would have you want, or like live in harmony with the technology, it's more so that it really is a part of us. Since the first hammer was invented, humans have been trying to perfect their use of the hammer.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what an artist is trying to do whenever they are using a pencil. They're trying to communicate what their brain is thinking onto the page with the use of a tool, technology. And so becoming one with it is really just natural.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of... I feel like, well, I mean, if you're talking about, like, uploading ourselves...
Not yet. That's the next topic. But that... I mean, whenever you, like... Geez, how do I word this? Okay, let's go back to, like, whenever we use Facebook or something. Whenever we use our phones or something. That, obviously, thousands of years ago, we didn't naturally, like, wake up and look at our phone. But now it's sort of become a habit for us. It's become a part of our ecosystem, and sort of necessary for us to utilize this tool in order to continue succeeding and thriving in our environment. We're sort of already one with technology.
Yeah, but that's the thing, that, like, we are. Like, it's all kind of like it's all a gray area. It's all gray. Like, it's like we're wearing clothes. Like, this not, like, you know, it's when we look at, like, a crab that has a shell. Like, you know, like, are those the crabs that have, like, you know,
the hermit crabs.
Yeah, the hermit crabs, they have it, like, that's not their shell. But, like, you know, they use it, like, you know. So then when you think of a hermit crab, like, do they automatically have a shell? Because they want the shell. Like, when you think of a human being, do they automatically have clothes? Like, I mean, when you think of a human being, do they automatically have a phone? Like, you know.
Yeah. and so in that regard, like, we're already becoming one with technology.
Yeah.
And I, for one, wouldn't mind, like, if my leg gets cut off, I want a cyborg leg.
Yeah.
Like, please give me a cyborg leg rather than, like, a prosthetic, because I can do more.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe we're not at the point yet where we're replacing limbs, perfectly good limbs, with cyborg limbs. But, like...
I don't feel like it has to, though. Like, again, Joe Rogan talks a lot about how, like, eventually, like, everything will be... Like, eventually people will agree to, like, hey, don't you want just a chip on your head? That way you can just, like, automatically, you know, connect to the internet whenever you want without, like, having this stupid phone on your hand. Like, you know, like, it'll be more immediate. Like, and eventually people will agree to that. Like, I could see that happening, but also it's like, I don't feel like... It's kind of like... that's the thing. I could see that happening, but I don't see it as necessary. Like, already... Like, it doesn't have to be in us to be us.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, the changes are less gradual all the time. I mean, 100 years ago, which would have been 1916, that television wasn't a thing. But radio was kind of starting out. And so, like, then people would have just thought, like, oh, radio, that's just something for, like, you know, rich people to sort of get in their house. But gradually it was like, what? You don't have a radio? Come on. Same thing with TV. And that happened a little bit faster. What? You don't have a TV? What, do you live under a rock? Like, what? You haven't watched Stranger Things? What? Do you live under a rock? What? You don't have a Facebook? What? You don't, like, you don't have a Twitter? You don't, and so,
you don't have a chip in your head?
Yeah. And so that change becomes, like, much faster. And so it might be much faster to go,
I mean, you
sure, I'll take a chip in my head.
You see this exponential thing to where, like, it almost gets to 90 degrees when it gets there. I mean, hopefully humanity becomes self-aware at that point to where, like, hey, like, you know, I feel like at a certain point, I mean, we have the power now to, like, you know, to feed everyone, clothe everyone, educate everyone.
Yeah.
But I feel like at a certain time, there's going to be, like, a technology, like, you know, point to where, like, this is, I mean, it's stupid now, but to where, like, it's really stupid that we're not educating and, like, feeding everybody. Like, you know, like, it's going to, and that's the thing, like, how stupider can it get? Because it's already pretty stupid that we don't do that. But, like, you know, like, it's going to get to a point to where, like, it's going to be crazy that we don't.
Yeah. And
then we're going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully. I mean, and then we're going to do it. And then we're going to work towards it. And then we're going to defend ourselves from asteroids. And then we're going to, like, go to other planets. Or we're going to die before that.
Yeah. And I mean, whatever point in that cycle. And I think that, so there's this goal, right, of life in general, just, like, survive. Like, I think a lot of games did this, but in the end of Halo Reach, whenever, like, you already did your final objective and then you're, like, kind of stranded there and, like, there's Coven everywhere, throughout the game, like, it gives you little, like, mission objectives at the top of the screen. And that last mission objective just said, survive.
Yeah.
And you obviously can't because hordes and hordes are coming, but just, like, that mission objective is just the mission objective of life.
Yeah.
And
obviously, I mean, there's, you said you read The Moral Landscape. We're still talking in codes if people haven't read these books. But to where he talks, like, there's plenty of ways to, like, have something be morally good. Like, you know,
a peak in the moral landscape.
There's plenty of ways to, like, survive and be good. You know, but there's obviously higher peaks.
Yeah. But at some point, those peaks become more clear the more knowledge we have, the more understanding we have of each other.
Yeah, and it's like those tools. Like,
sure.
Yeah.
And one thing is that, like, how we're going to get there. Is it going to be that we make an AI and the AI goes, hey, idiots, you're doing this all wrong. Like, you're obviously supposed to educate everyone.
But, I mean, again, I was thinking about the alternate universe to where, like, you know, the sperm warriors of Papua New Guinea. The sperm warriors of Papua New Guinea, like, the kids, they believe that to be a manly man, you have to suck a whole bunch of dicks and drink a whole bunch of cum. Like, you know, and then it's just normal to them. It's just, like, that's just what they know. So then, I mean, it would be bad if you told them, hey, don't do that. Because the kid would be like, I'm not going to be a manly man now. And then, I mean, like, it's gonna fuck up that kid to not, like, pedophile him. Like, you know, like, so then what if the AI is like, bros, you guys got to pedophile all these kids. What are you guys doing?
I mean, I hope not, but I'm biased.
I'm biased as well.
But at the same time, like, I see a few different routes, and another of which being sort of the transcendence singularity thing. That
AI is gonna reach. It's gonna reach it before we do. It's just
but the
hopefully we create them nice enough to where like they help us out.
but I mean, like, going back to sort of uploading yourself, that whenever we get there, whenever technology is available for us to have our 42, is it going to be via an AI, or are we going to have to renounce the self?
We're gonna have to. We should renounce the self now. But I mean, the AI is also gonna force us to do that. Like the AI. Again, I mean, I'm telling you what I think.
Sure.
But like the AI, kind of like in her, like they could both speak post conversationally, and then they both like just blend together, and then like they're still kind of have themselves, but they're still both not really themselves. Like,
yeah. And so one sort of funny idea that like my teacher of this class, hi George, brought up is that like, what do you do? But but it's not even so much like what do you do, because like your meat body is gonna be left behind, and I guess this consciousness would just die.
well,
Like,
then
sure.
again, does it have to? Because I mean, then at that point, isn't it murder? Like, you know, if it's like, you know, I want to be uploaded. It's like, okay, there I am. It's like, no, here I am. It's like, no, here I am. It's like, and then, I mean, does the robot just cut your head off?
The cloning problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like hopefully you just like give all your experiences to the AI and it's like, all right, cool, I'm there, and then you just live on your life and accept that like you are you. You're stuck in your meat body.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. But at the same time, like, and so that does provide a balance between the two. It's not just, you know, hey, look, transcendence, and we're done, because your meat body still has to continue. It has to live out the rest of its natural life. And so, what, do we just nanobots and, like,
There's also
live
a thing.
1,000 years?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of space for evolution. There's plenty of space to, like, for us to find ways to maybe live forever.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah. But at the same time, living in our meat body, can we still renounce the self?
Yes.
And I mean that's the goal of Buddhism, but
There's what you call it? Like, I mean, like ants. Like, you know, to where they work more. Like, and also I think there's tribes, like there's hunter gatherers that like they don't have a concept of like I. Like they say we, like, for everything. Like, you know, so
I'd want to be Legion.
yeah.
That, you know, maybe we'd be able to do it through like neural implants or whatever, and kind of like ants do it. You know how like ants can, if they're all crawling on the same thing, they can like send out a pheromone and they all bite at the same time. Or whenever a wasp is in a beehive, all of the bees swarm the wasp and they all vibrate and they cook it inside their own like heat.
Yeah.
Those are both very morbid examples, but
also kind of
humanity should be the hive mind.
You've jammed with people before, right?
Yeah.
I mean, don't you get to a point to where like it's almost like machine-like. It's almost like a pendulum or like a domino hitting, and like sure, you're doing the movement, but it's all like, I mean, you guys are moving as a unit. Like, you guys are one.
Yeah. Because I don't know, I like the idea of, I don't know, being able to walk around and think a tree just got cut down and I felt it. Like,
Yeah.
And
But you want superpowers or what?
no, but I want all of us to feel that. Not just me. I want all of us to feel everything at once.
You can't
to
even
have the understanding.
You can't even feel everything in your body at once.
Yeah, but like, I have little to no attachment to myself anymore, other than just like what my meat body desires. Like, I want the world to be better.
Because you're all, I don't know, because I'm thinking, like, you're already kind of a hive mind, like, within your body, because, like, you're already more not you than you are you. Like, there's already, like,
More cells in my body that aren't my
that
DNA.
don't have your DNA than what you have. Like, I mean, so it's all, like, and also, like, we think, like, oh, I'm me, but also, like, because I think, like, what are you? Your memories? Because you forget things all the time. Like, what are you? Like, the way you act, because you act very differently in, like, different scenarios. Like, so it's like, what are you? Because we have this idea, like, oh, this is me, and and this is us, and that's two different things.
Sure.
But it's
and
all different perspectives.
And I've let go of that. I'm fine with not being me. And more so, sort of what you're striving for with your research as well, is that I want to feel the empathy of everything else. Not just every human, but everything.
Yeah.
That really the only way to, like, achieve this love that our experience keeps calling us towards is to understand one another. And to not just understand with our minds, but feel with one another. To have that same flow whenever we jam, but to when we hear news about an oil spill, that we don't just think, oh, that sucks, but to really feel the earth weep.
But also, it's like, it's kind of like whenever, because kind of like how I was thinking, like, that doesn't happen within your own body. Like, like if you step on a nail, like, your, like, your pinky finger isn't like, oh, that's, I really feel for the foot, like, that really sucks. Like, like,
Sure. Yeah, but like, to work as an organism is really what.
Again,
what I want.
To work as an organism, you don't necessarily have to.
Yeah.
Like.
But I would like the human race to work as an organism.
Yeah, that's something that I can't wait for. Chris Ryan's book.
Sure.
Whenever he I do feel like we are kind of more like a locusts, like like
Yeah.
kind of cannibalistic. Everybody's out for themselves, like, and we're not really thinking about what we're doing as a group. We're just acting,
Yeah.
because we have, and we don't, like, I don't feel like we think we can change our environment, but we can.
Yeah.
Obviously we have some control over our
Yeah,
environment.
but we are our environment too.
But that's what I'm saying. As in, like, we could. I don't know how much we have. I don't know, because it gets political.
Sure.
Because politics, that is the way that, like, we move society, kind of, or like how, like, society moves.
Yeah. I mean, I guess going back to where we are now, that do you think that the advancement in the technology with the AI or with the VR, do you think that sort of like exponential explosion that's going to happen to cause the AI or us to realize, hey, we're kind of doing this all wrong. Is that going to happen before we find world peace, or is the technological explosion going to have to happen as the war is going on?
I mean, again, that's also the asteroid could come before that.
Sure, sure.
But no, I think I probably. I mean, I feel like a lot of us are working toward, like, the the moral good to that, like, a lot of us are working toward a better world, but I don't think it's enough. It might be technology that really gets us together.
Yeah.
And, like...
Which also doesn't mean stop. Like, continue doing all the good that you can.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, like, I think technology helps us with empathy.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean...
But it's a tool. You can use it for good, you can use it for bad.
But I mean, I guess more my question is, like, is the revolution going to happen from us, or is it going to happen from the AI?
It's kind of like what puts the idea into the AI to do the oneness, like
the information from
us.
Yeah.
So
sure, but like we haven't reached it. Not we as humans, anyways.
No, but I think that's a thing that, like, AI can do. AI kind of like Legion, like, we haven't found an answer to that yet. Like, AI can, like, oh, okay, we found the answer. Like, like, we got it. Like, and it's not like like us, to where, like, some of us think this way and some of us think that way. I think, whenever the big AI that's connected to the universe, it is connected to the universe, but, like, to the internet, it's like, oh, this is the answer. Like, this is the way it should be.
Yeah. Whichever way it would turn out, whether it's by choice, as in we caused the revolution, or whether it's by force with the AI doing it for us, regardless of the probabilities of either of those events happening, we should still strive for it ourselves.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously.
I don't know. We don't expect mommy to fix it all soon. Learn to swim.
I mean, learn to swim is just like, get ready for the worst.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we should too.
That's the asteroid thing.
Yeah. And, like, love each other, though.
Yeah, that's a thing that we really need to... And maybe it's just because it's me. Because, like, I think I'm right. But, like, as in, like, we need to teach that to other people. It's like, okay, you think this, look at the other side. You, like, really, really think... Like, you're 100% convinced about this. Look at the other side now. Like,
yeah. And so kind of going all the way back to social media and people as products and stuff like that. Like, yeah, our number one goal is sort of, like, right now in our meat bodies is, like, survive within this environment. And so that does mean selling yourself as a product, promoting yourself on social media. But at the same time, and hopefully it's clear to the people that listen to this, that this is what I'm trying to do too. That, yes, I'm trying to sell myself as a product. I make music. But at the same time, I'm trying to put forth these perspectives, to put forth like, hey, look around you, do something, love each other. That's why I end every podcast with my three things. That in one regard, I'm trying to say, hey, buy my product. Another Tool quote. Buy my new record. And at the same time, I'm also trying to influence the people who do buy my product to do good in the world. Yeah. What about you?
Well, what I'm trying to I have several podcasts that I need to put up, but is to have kind of like, kind of doing the Sam Harris thing, like to have healthy conversations. I'd like to have more conversations with people that I disagree with. But just because I feel like I have a lot of questions, like, and I like listening to conversations. Because a lot of the times, like, within those conversations, they may ask questions like, oh shit, like, I didn't even think to ask that, like, or I didn't even think to go down that road.
Yeah.
So I think it's helpful to, like, kind of have these conversations and let other people listen to it.
Yeah. That's probably something I should do more of. That, in one regard, they're conversations, but to another regard, it might have to be an argument.
Yeah.
And being okay with that.
But it can be, because I don't know, conversation, argument. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because there's a fine line, and a conversation can easily turn into an argument.
Yeah.
But hopefully the people that I will be talking to, or have already talked to, are okay with having arguments.
Disagreements.
And disagreements. Yeah. But at the same time, I dislike agree to disagree. Because you're not really...
Well, at some point you kind of have to, like, I gotta go to bed.
Yeah.
I gotta go take a dump. Like,
Sure.
I do gotta go take a dump. But...
Yeah. Okay. So, plug your stuff.
Listen to my podcast. It's Muditious. Muditous.
Yes.
On iTunes. And, that's the same thing on... I don't do much on, like, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. But, my name's Jesus Ramones. You can look me up, and then whenever I do put up a podcast, I try to put it out on all those.
Yeah. Which is at moodishes.com.
Yeah.
And then I'm Santiago Ramones. And you can find everything that I do on santiagoramones.com. I make music. I'm a composer, songwriter, producer, all those things. Along with this podcast, which you can find all on my website. And I always end every podcast with my three things, which are love never fails, it's going to be okay, I might be wrong. Thanks for listening.